forever.
And I'm Dan Friedel.
This is VOA News. I'm Alexis Strope. In a surprise moment nearing the final hours before a government shutdown, the House approved a 45-day funding bill to keep federal agencies open. House passage came after Speaker Kevin McCarthy dropped plans for a steep spending cut and relied on Democratic help. Here's how Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
Would I have wanted the bill we put on the floor yesterday that would secure our border, cut wasteful spending? Yes, I did. But I had some members in our own conference that wouldn't vote for that.
The bill drops aid for Ukraine but adds U.S. disaster assistance. Senators are expected to pass it later Saturday. 5 years ago, the killing of a journalist sent shockwaves around the world. VOA's Laura Benman has more.
On October 2018, journalist Jamal Khashoggi walked into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey, and never came out. There, a Saudi team reportedly suffocated and dismembered him. U.S. intelligence later concluded that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman had approved a mission to capture and kill the Saudi-born journalist who had been critical of him. The prince calls Khashoggi's death a mistake. Despite sentences and what they call show trials in Saudi Arabia, Khashoggi's family and supporters say there's been no real justice in the journalist's killing. But that won't stop them from calling for it. Laurel Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Kosovo on Saturday demanded that Serbia withdraw its troops from their common border, saying it was ready to protect its territorial integrity. Tensions between the two countries have been high since last Sunday, when Kosovo police fought around 30 heavily armed Serbs who stormed a Kosovo village and barricaded themselves in a Serbian Orthodox monastery. 3 attackers and 1 police officer were killed. You'll find expanded coverage of world news and events at our website, voanews.com, 24 hours a day. This is VOA News. Voters have cast ballots in Slovakia in a parliamentary election that pits a former prime minister who is pro-Russia against a liberal pro-West newcomer. AP correspondent Karen Shamus reports.
In Bratislava, a voter puts her ballot in the ballot box. Another voter, Jaro Stanchik, tells the AP, these elections are crucial and critical, and it's about keeping liberal democracy. Former Prime Minister Robert Fico and his leftist Smer or Direction Party vowed to reverse Slovakia's military support for neighbouring Ukraine in Russia's war if his attempt to return to power is successful. Smer's main challenger is Progressive Slovakia, a liberal party formed in 2017 and led by Michal Šimečka, a member of the European Parliament. Fico, who has twice served as Prime Minister, opposes EU sanctions on Russia, doubts Ukraine can win the war, and wants to block Ukraine from joining NATO. I'm Karen Chamas.
A federal agency in the U.S. has sued the restaurant chain Chipotle, accusing it of religious harassment and retaliation. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission alleges in its lawsuit that a manager at a Chipotle restaurant in the U.S. state of Kansas forcibly removed a Muslim employee's hijab in 2021. The complaint alleges that the manager repeatedly harassed the employee by asking her to show him her hair, despite her refusal. The lawsuit claims this created a hostile work environment based on religion. Chipotle's chief corporate affairs officer said the company has no tolerance for discrimination and has fired the manager in question. Migrants were stranded in Mexico on Friday, miles from the U.S. border, after their freight train they were traveling on top of abruptly stopped, amid the ongoing suspension of dozens of northbound trains over fears around migrant safety. Lauren Anthony reports.
Also on Friday, further east in the border city of Piedras Negras that sits opposite Eagle Pass in Texas, Venezuelan migrant Jose Julian said he too had been stranded while traveling aboard the cargo trains. He said that it took 3 days on foot to make it to the border. 60 northbound cargo trains run by Mexico's Ferromex were stopped last week after about half a dozen migrants suffered death or injury. The company later said it restarted some routes where there was no known heightened risk.
The European Union launched on Sunday the first phase of the world's first system to impose CO2 emissions tariffs on imported steel, cement, and other goods as it tries to stop more polluting foreign products from undermining its green transition. The planned tariff has caused disquiet among trading partners. It will not start until 2026. I'm Alexis Strope, VOA News.
This is VOA News. I'm Joe Ramsey. U.S. President Joe Biden on Sunday suggested Democrats have made a deal with Republicans on support for Ukraine after the U.S. Congress left aid for Kyiv out of a stopgap government spending bill that averted a shutdown.
Are you going to be able to trust Speaker McCarthy when the next deal comes around?
We just made one about Ukraine, so we'll find out.
The nature of this deal is unclear. Biden also blasted Republicans for holding up government spending talks after a partial shutdown of the federal government was narrowly averted. There are reports the British training of Ukrainian soldiers could move into western Ukraine, but not right away, if at all, according to AP correspondent Mimi Montgomery.
Britain's new defense secretary suggests that military training of Ukrainian soldiers that currently takes place at UK bases could move into western Ukraine. In a newspaper interview, recently appointed Defense Minister Grant Shapps says he's in discussions with the British Army about it. But Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is ruling out speculation of an imminent deployment, telling reporters that Shapps' suggestion is not for the here and now, but possibly the long term. Russia is criticizing the proposal, with former president and deputy head of Russia's Security Council Dmitry Medvedev claiming Shapps is pushing toward a third world war. Mimi Montgomery, London.
At least 13 people were killed in a fire in a Spanish nightclub on Sunday morning, officials said, with fears the toll could still rise as rescue workers sift through the debris. The fire appears to have broken out in a building housing clubs in the city of Murcia in southeastern Spain. The fire spread from the upper parts of two clubs, according to a spokesman for the National Police. This is VOA News. Turkey's government said on Sunday 2 terrorists carried out a bomb attack. Reuters correspondent Lauren Anthony says the bomb exploded in front of the Interior Ministry buildings in Ankara.
Police announced they would also be carrying out controlled explosions for suspicious package incidents in other parts of Ankara. Authorities did not identify any specific militant group. The blast on Ataturk Boulevard was the first in Ankara since 2016, when a bomb-laden car exploded at a crowded central transport hub, killing 37 people. During a spate of violence in 2015 and 2016, Kurdish militants, Islamic State and other groups either claimed or were blamed for several attacks in major Turkish cities.
Reuters correspondent Lauren Anthony, who says the attack occurred just before Turkey's parliament was set to open a new session after the summer recess. The United Nations Security Council is set to vote on Monday to approve the deployment of foreign police to Haiti and authorize the use of force to help the Caribbean country fight violent gangs that have largely overrun the capital. A U.S.-drafted resolution seen by Reuters would also expand a UN arms embargo that currently applies only to designated individuals to include all gangs, which China wanted. Haitian officials have said guns used by gangs are believed to be mostly imported from the United States. Azerbaijan's prosecutor general says the country has issued an arrest warrant for a former Nagorno-Karabakh separatist leader who led the breakaway region, which is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan but largely populated by ethnic Armenians, between May 2020 and the beginning of September. Local media reported Sunday he and the region's former military commander are accused of firing missiles on Azerbaijan during a war in late 2020. The announcement comes as Azerbaijan enforces its grip on the former breakaway state following 3 decades of conflict and an offensive last month that has prompted a large-scale exodus of the region's ethnic Armenian inhabitants. Paw Patrol, the mighty movie, is the top movie at the box office this weekend. AP correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports.
Great! Now the clumsy pup shoots fireballs out of his paws.
Dogs with superpowers put people in theater seats this week. The second Paw Patrol movie raked in $23 million domestically in its debut weekend, according to studio estimates. The 10th Saw movie came in second with $18 million. The Creator was number 3, while The Nun 2 was number 4. The Blind took 5th place. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
Find more at voanews.com. I'm Joe Ramsey.